It's been a minute since I've done a video or even updated anything on my blog, and I thought about writing something, and then I thought about how some things just have to be said. Um, and for me, anyway, to articulate it in the way that I want to. Uh, Sometime last year, I think March or so, it's almost been a year, I had reached out to the Department of Corrections because I wanted to get a more confirmed date of my ex's release date. And a friend of mine who happens to work there reached back and said that there was a letter in there in the file that was like, I guess you could call it like a victim apology letter or whatever. And so I'm surprised because I originally said I didn't want anything. Like under, for victims, you can go in and put that you don't want to receive anything from the offender. And I did, so maybe that's why I didn't get it. And so she mentioned it. I thought about it for a second, like, do I want it? And I said, yeah. So prior to even talking to her, I have been just praying to God to give me, a sign or just to kind of let me know where his head was at when he was released, right? So do I still need to be fearful? Has he repented? Does he have any form of forgiveness? Like, you never really know what somebody's headspace is after they've been sitting there for 6 years, right? Are you pissed and angry? Are you not taking accountability for it and still blaming me for your actions? Or are you at a better place with God and yourself in, just redeeming yourself and asking for forgiveness? So I get this letter, and immediately in reading it, my mouth just like dropped because I really wasn't sure like what to expect. I never wanted a letter, wasn't looking for one, and don't really need an apology. But like I said, I did want to know where this creep's head was at. And so I read it to my mom, read it to my children and my partner, and was just pissed. I was so pissed I cried. I was just so livid because there were things in it that he lied about me. He didn't accept responsibility. Just like made me look at it like, Negro, you ain't changed in 6 years. You're actually worse than you were before you went in. And I believe that this letter that was written because of some program or something, because come to find out, he's getting released 2 months early because of some programs or something that he participated in. So I'm sure this was a part of that. So anyway, I read this shit and I thought, wow, he hasn't changed at all. If anything, he's even gotten more skilled in his narcissism, right? And so I said to one of my family members, like, I'm going to share that. I want people to see this is what narcissism looks like. It's really hard for some people to understand what emotional abuse feels like. What it looks like. And for anybody that's ever been emotionally abused, you can't quite articulate the words or to like, it's a feeling. And also for anybody that's been with or been exposed to a narcissistic partner, it's really hard to kind of put it into words until I got this letter. So anyone that knows me or knows of my experience with this person, we were together almost 8 years and share a child together, and he attempted to kill me twice. 2 years into the relationship, just beat the shit out of me. Just kicked me in my head so many times. I had subdural hemorrhaging, and by the grace of God, my daughter and my mom and Jesus himself saved me. And I'm not ashamed to say I took him back. And we stayed together another, 6 years? And he was on probation, I don't know, 3 years of that, or 4 or 5 years almost of that. And then in 2013, I decided to leave the relationship. And things, when you attempt to leave, that's when things get most dangerous. And he attempted to kill me then. He accused me of cheating, came home from my mom's, actually called me from my parents' house, accused me of cheating, even though we weren't together. And that ignited another part of him that I guess I had never seen before. And also, again, tried to beat the shit out of me and told me every time he kicked me or punched me in my head. I escaped, put no clothes on, ran next door to my neighbors with this huge gash in my head. And by the grace of God, he saved me again. Took 2 years almost for him to be sentenced. And again, as I said, he was sentenced, and so hadn't heard from him, had a protection order, a civil protection order actually, so he couldn't contact us. And so I really just kind of moved on in my life, got to a really good, healthy place, healthy relationship. Haven't really thought about him until, like I said, I reached out to get a more of a confirmation of when I need to get myself together for his release or whatever. So I get this letter. I'm going to try at some point to share it, whether it's in this video or I write a blog and share this, but I'm going to definitely post it somewhere to share it. But I'm also going to read it too. And then I'm just going to pick through it, right? Just to point out the little narc traits that are in it. So I want to point out that this letter does not have my name on it. Who in the hell was you writing it to? Most times when you apologize to someone, you acknowledge the person's name that you are apologizing to. I noticed in this letter there was no reference of my name. There was no reference of my daughter's name. And it was just very blanketed, very empty. That's what I noticed at first. So I will read. During my sentencing, the judge asked me if I had anything to say, but I had to face her and not look at you. That made my statement seem insignificant and insincere. I wanted you to see the sincerity in my eyes. Looking back, I realized that no matter what I may have said, it would not change what I did or how you feel about me. And today, 6 years later, that may very well still be the truth. However, a lot has happened since that night when I caused physical, emotional harm to you. I have had time to see clearly my shortcomings and exactly where I went wrong, and it was long before December 6, 2013. During our time together, I neglected and ignored your needs. You were fighting a battle with addiction that I left you to fight alone because I didn't understand or because it wasn't happening to me. I downplayed your struggle with painkillers and alcohol when you needed me the most. I left you and began a new life as if it wasn't my problems. And when you called on me for help, I physically hurt you, not caring about how you or your family would feel. I was selfish and unempathetic to you. As a result, I caused you pain that may never go away. I have learned to swallow all of that shame, embarrassment, and regret. I do not take no pride whatsoever in the pain I caused. Every day I relive that night as well as the 6 years I neglected your needs, and I searched the dictionary for a better choice of words to say I'm truly sorry, but unfortunately, no matter how I say it or the choice words I use, it will mean nothing if it's not sincere. If I can be honest, it's taken some time and sincere efforts for me to get to the nerve to ask for your forgiveness. Seeing the damage I caused to you and your family made this near almost impossible for me, made this letter almost impossible for me to write. But I want to finally be the man now that I know what that looks like God intended me to be. And that starts with me stepping up, even when that means, especially when that means, facing my own fears, failures, and setting things right with the ones, with you, that I have wounded through it all, the neglect, the lack of compassion, for the absence of an empathetic heart. I'm truly sorry. Regards, Trevelyan S. Johnson. Really? I'm going to try to be really nice, but still be myself in this video of what I said and how I felt. So let's look at this shit, right? So during my sentencing, the judge asked me if I had anything to say, but I had to face her and not look at you. That made my statement seem insignificant and sincere. Anybody that knows or was there, and there were quite a few people there. Actually, it was televised. So we all knew what you said. You never once even said, I'm sorry, Negro. You looked at the judge and you said that you were defending yourself against me, that you were trying to leave, and that what did he say? I came at him with a letter opener. First of all, back then I didn't even own a damn letter opener, right? So that was a lie. Not one time in his entire statement to the judge did you ever even fucking say, I'm sorry. Did you even try to say you're sorry to the kids or to anybody? No. He kept talking so much about how he was defending himself and how, even her mom says that sometimes she can be this and how sometimes this, to the point that the attorney was literally like stop. Like, you are, stop talking about stop, right? Like, he showed exactly who he was in that courtroom that day. So as I read this crap, I'm thinking, at what point did you want to look at me and say that you were sorry? Because you never even said it to the judge. That was your opportunity to say it then publicly, and you never took responsibility at all for anything that you did. So, what else? However, a lot has happened. Boop, boop, boop. This is the piece that really pissed me off, right? This is the part that let me see that you have not changed whatsoever. This is where those narcissistic traits just came screaming out at me, right? I'm not going to accept responsibility at all. I'm going to make it really about myself, because this letter is supposed to be about the person victimized, but I'm going to make it all about me. And I'm going to try to find some reason as to why I behaved the way that I behaved. So when he said, let me see, I neglected and ignored your needs. You were fighting a battle with addiction that I left you to fight alone because I didn't understand or because it wasn't happening. I downplayed your struggle with painkillers and alcohol when you needed me the most. I left you and began a new life as if it wasn't my problems. I really want to say something, but I'm going to try to be as nice as I can because I don't know where I'm going to share this video at. So I can't say what I want. But what I wanted to say, you lying asshole is what I'm going to say, and that's in the nicest way that I can sum it up whatsoever. First of all, again, anybody that knows me knows I'm extremely transparent. I can tell you that I am codependent as hell. I can tell you I've talked very open and publicly about my insecurities, about the fact that I thought I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't skinny enough, that I wasn't this enough, that left me wide open for just not even loving myself. So I don't have a problem in admitting if I was an addict or if I struggled with addiction. I don't have a problem with that. I have the utmost compassion for people that do struggle with those types of addictions. I have an addiction to people. I'm codependent as hell. I'm trying to fix and save people and have almost got myself killed doing it. So I understand addiction. I have it in my family. I have loved ones who have had addiction and had problems and died from it. So I am very put off by this accusation. And it just, listen, I don't care if I was an addict or if I was or I wasn't. My point I'm trying to make is that you lied. You lied about, you're not even taking freaking ownership for what you did that day. You tried to kill me as you continued to choke the shit out of me and kick me in my face and slam me against walls. You chanted how you were going to kill me. What the hell is this? Like, what? Again, Mr. Narcissistic, own your shit. Own it. You've done 6 years. You've sat there for 6 years now, almost, and you still can't accept the reality of what it is that you did. And I think what happens sometimes with narcissists is they really begin to believe their shit. Like, they believe the lies that they tell people. They believe, I don't know, they just believe their shit. So that really, that bothered me. I ain't even gonna lie. I can't even front. That pissed me off. It pissed me off, again, not because of what you said about me, but just because you tried to find some kind of lie to make you look like the poor person, the poor, sad man that had this addict, drug addict and alcoholic girlfriend that you just was having such a hard time trying to support. And then you began a new life. Negro, you ain't began no new life. You was over there sleeping with my best friend. That's the life that you was living. So, again, it ain't about you leaving for no new life, because you still lived in the same house with me. First of all, let's be clear. He hadn't gone anywhere. Were you not being faithful? Absolutely, you weren't. Whether we were together or whether we weren't. But we were still in the same home together, even though we weren't dating anymore. So I don't know what you mean when you say I left you and began a new life. I can't. So I was selfish and unempathetic to you. That I will agree with. I will. That's about the one damn thing that you said in the whole letter that makes just the truth. I have learned to swallow that pill of shame, embarrassment, and regret. I do not take no pride whatsoever in the pain I caused. Every day I relive that night. Negro, every day I look at myself in the mirror and I see the scars that you left on my face. I see the scars on my body. I see and I still feel all the shit you put me through. And from when you tried to kill me. I'm still dealing with my children who are in freaking therapy now because of my relationship with him. You got the audacity to tell me how how just is horrible that every day you relive that night. I doubt you relive that night. If anything, you're probably wishing that you really killed me. I don't know. That doesn't scream to me that you are reliving the night and that you feel regretful about what it is that you did. Because if you did, you'd be honest with yourself in this letter. Right? So this is all the things that I'm thinking. I'm thinking, how can you be regretful, remorseful, and you can't even be honest with yourself? Like, even in this little bullshit letter that you had to write for whatever program it was that he was in, you couldn't even be honest about that. Like, even the person in corrections that gave me the letter, she's like, it just seemed empty. Like, I don't know him. She's like, but it just seemed like it was a scripted something that he wrote. I said, I don't even think he wrote it. It don't even look like anything that he wrote. It really doesn't. I don't know where in the hell this came from, but this ain't come from. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it did come from him, because maybe now he's worse than he was. But like, I like, who is this person? Who is this? I don't know. So, okay, let me finish. I'm almost finished. If I can be honest, then it's taken some time and sincere effort for me to get to the nerve to ask for your forgiveness. Negro, at what point in this effing letter did you ever say, please forgive me? I am so sorry for what I've done to you and to my daughter. Like, you ain't even put my name on this damn letter. How you gonna ask somebody to forgive you that you ain't even spoke their name? You mentioned, the pain that I've caused to the family. And the family, Negro, your daughter. Did you even think to say that you're sorry for what you did, what you put the kids through? Again, this was some bullshit that you had to write to, I don't know, get an extra day off of your sentence. But it wasn't sincere. It's not sincere at all. I want to finally be the man, now that I know what that looks like, that God intended me to be. I still don't think you found the man that God needs you to be, apparently, in this letter. And that starts with me stepping up, even when that means, especially when that means, facing my own failures and setting things right with the ones with you that I have wounded. So, just boom, okay? When I read this letter, I immediately thought of it. It jumped out for me on so many different levels of narcissism, right? Number one, you're not owning anything. He's not owning nothing. Maybe the one thing he said is that he wasn't empathetic enough or whatever. That's about the only truthful thing I can find in this thing that he wrote. But what this letter, what this thing is, and I'm sure that a lot of I don't want to say the word inmates, a lot of offenders do, right? Some really do go in there and find redemption. They find Jesus. They find having all this time to sit in there and just find, even long before whatever it was that you did, where your life took a wrong turn. Was you not loved enough? Did your mama not love you enough? Did you get beat as a child? Were you abandoned? Whatever those things are that lead us to do some really just shitty things, right? Because hurt people do hurt people. So usually this is where that time of sitting and reflecting comes in at, and it comes across in the way that you talk, in the way that you write, in your apologies. This was none of that. This scared the shit out of me, is what this letter did. I'm not gonna lie, it terrified me, because I read it and was like, oh my God, he's worse. He's even worse than when he went in. It was worse. He sounds even more manipulative and narcissistic than he was before I even met him. You've had all this time to sit and think and find redemption and repentance. And this is the letter that you write, the letter that doesn't even have my name on it, the letter that doesn't even reference your own child. You wrote it because you had to. We all know that. People that don't even know you know that. I came home and I read it to my boyfriend, and he didn't want to read it. He didn't want to listen to it, right? And I said, no, I need you to hear this, because I need you to know what happens, where my head is at next, and why I just need you to listen to it. So I read it to him. And he was just like, wow, it's empty. It's just hollow. There was really no real forgiveness. There was no real, it was just empty as shit. And I said, yeah. And this is why I'm still grateful, though. I'm grateful for the thing that God gave me, right? I didn't ask for this letter. Wasn't looking for it even. And somehow I managed to come across where it was put in my lap for me to read it, for me to see where his head was at. Because that's what I had been asking God for maybe the past year and a half. I have just been asking God to help me to prepare. What do I do? And I read this. And once I get over being pissed, I'm grateful for it, because it lets me see that he hasn't asked God for forgiveness. You ain't got to ask me for forgiveness. I already forgave him. I forgave him several years ago, right? I had to forgive him for myself. It wasn't anything to do with him. I didn't want him hanging on to me. And hanging on to the pain and the anger and the everything else keeps me connected to that asshole. And I did not want that. So I prayed. That was the last thing in my healing journey, was to just unshackle that damn thing that was on my ankle that was leaving me attached to him. Do I still have, am I disappointed? Absolutely. I'm very disappointed, and always will be, for the person that I share a child with that said that they loved me, that they love my children, that they would never hurt their mother. Am I disappointed of what kind of supposed man or just human being he is? Absolutely. But do I hang on to hurt and anger? And I don't have time for that. I am happy. I have a partner that loves me and has loved me from the very moment that I ever met him, and has healed just by being who he is and being the partner that I need. That's that's what I needed. He gave me something that asshole could never give to me, right? From just love and compassion and empathy and just everything. So what I gotta be mad about? I'm not mad at all. But what I am is prepared. So my thing in my prayer was that I believe that we have to prepare. We have to always be in preparation, right, of the enemy. So for me, it's been, when I read that, it was like, okay, I got this much longer to go to get my house in order, right? To get my gun skills, to get my shooting range skills up, to get my security around my house, to get my animals trained to defend me, to get more firearms, to do everything that I needed to do. And then the rest of it is just leaving it in God's hands. So have I done everything that I need to do to make me feel safe from a human standpoint? Yes. And then the rest of the spiritual and just godly standpoint comes from above. I can't live in fear. I refuse. He's taken so much already that I refuse to let him take anything else. And, one of the things that my boyfriend reminded me of is that he's like, you don't have to be afraid or nervous or anything. He's like, because he's not, you're not the same woman that you once were. And he's right. I'm not the same Marika that was there, almost 8 years ago. I'm not her no more. Come to me if you want. But I'm not the insecure, I don't want to even say that I was like timid, but like for instance, when he was beating me, I wasn't really fighting him back. I was just trying to get him off of me. I will kill you now. Come at me. I'm gonna hurt you back, right? My mindset has changed. I'm not the same woman anymore. I don't have the same the same mindset of laying on that floor, just curled up in a little ball like a little dog in a corner trying to just protect my face. Nah, that's not me no more. Like, you catch me on the wrong day in the wrong way, I'm gonna hurt you. I'll say that. I'm gonna hurt you. And that's anybody, right? I know the power that I possess and what it is that all that I've learned in this process of just in this process. And I think that's the thing that survivors have to remember, is that you're not the same person that they used to beat on. You're not the same person that they used to abuse and put down emotionally. That shit don't work no more. You ain't gonna catch me second guessing myself and not sure what to say and not sure and trying to walk on eggshells. And I don't do that no more. I don't want to be in a friendship or a relationship, any kind of ship, where I have to be on my guard all the time, constantly defending myself and checking myself and fighting myself and fighting you. And I don't do that no more. So, my sweetheart was right when he said he ain't got that's not the same Marika no more. So you don't even have the same fears of this person anymore, because you're not the same person. And I'm not. So I just, again, felt extremely compelled. I've almost had this stupid ass letter a year. And I guess I just wasn't ready to share it yet, right? And now, like I said, something triggered me yesterday that was just like, you know what? That is narcissism at its finest. And people don't know what that is, right? So we know the last president that we just had showed us exactly what narcissism looks like. He's the epitome, right? But, as I'm looking here, right, the best way to try to just explain it, right? And you think about it as I'm saying some of these traits, you think about this letter, right? And this person. So I, gone to school, have a degree in psychology, right? And one of the things that I learned that was super interesting to learn is that out of all the personality disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, narcissism is the one that has almost 99% of all the traits of all of the other personality disorders, right? It's the one that is also the hardest to treat because they don't think there's anything wrong. There's nothing wrong. I remember going to therapy with him, like me and my codependent self, after he beat me the first time. I was like, let's go to therapy. We're going to fix this. And that's one of the things that the therapist said is like, you are super codependent. You're trying to fix him in the therapy session. You're trying to bring him here to fix him. And for him, when she would call him on his shit, he would get so pissed, right? He would manipulate, and I'd sit back and watch it. He'd manipulate the whole freaking therapy session to where it came back to, he was just he's the victimized person. That didn't last long. I stopped going to therapy with him because it was only re-victimizing me even more. But like, I say that to say that it's the personality trait that is the hardest to treat because they don't see anything wrong. So here's just 9 things, right? So when I do my presentations and my workshops and stuff, I give like real life examples and just different things for people to be able to see what it looks like, right? So 1, lack of empathy. From a basic perspective, a narcissist does not care or understand how people feel and rarely considers other people's feelings and their actions and words. It can manifest in physical or verbal ways. For example, a narcissist will often say cruel things in an offhand manner, remaining oblivious to the pain that they cause with their words. And it's not unusual for them to launch into a one-way discussion about what they are doing without any regard or inquiring about how the other person feels. This whole thing over here about, I'm sorry I wasn't empathetic, I wasn't this and I wasn't that, still didn't have it in the letter either. Just, they don't have the ability to. I don't know how to explain it. It just, I don't know. It's again, it's just really hard to put a finger on, right? But it's just mind-blowing. Too manipulative. Another weapon in their arsenal is a major sign that you could be with a narcissist is manipulation. The ability to twist the situation to better suit their narrative is a poignant personality trait that all egotistical people possess. It can be exhausting for those in a relationship. When a person is so skillfully manipulative, you find yourself falling into their trap, remaining relatively unaware of what's happening. And then years later, you start connecting the dots. The manipulation is clear as day, but we often miss it. And narcs are masters at getting what they want because they have no empathy. They don't care what it costs to get what it is that they want. I had an interview with a lady today where we were talking about it. We were talking about connecting those dots and how sometimes it's hard to be able to connect those dots when you're in the middle of the damn thing, right? It's not until you're out of it and you can like really look back at it and see and start to connect those dots. But when you're in it, I don't know, it becomes functional dysfunction. You just don't see it. Projection, another one here. A clear-cut sign that you're dating a narcissist is the psychological trick known as projection. A narcissist will accuse someone else of doing what they're doing, or will call out their flaws and fears in someone else. More often than not, the person who is cheating accuses his partner of cheating. So, this creep, right? That's what I got my ass beat for, right? Accuses me of cheating, even though we're not together. Come to find out, you've been dating my former, I don't even give her the ability, I can't say my best friend, my former best friend, for I don't even know how long you guys were together. So, again, another perfect example. You're accusing me of something I didn't do that you've been doing for, I don't know how long you've been doing it. Projection is a defense or an unconscious pattern that occurs when the person feels psychologically threatened. The narcissistic ego is always monitoring the world for threats and often finds them. Then they quickly blame the other people for their deficits. And projection it's a frustrating because the partner's always accusing you of doing things you're not actually doing. The projections are not just about cheating and betrayal. They can be about the narc's own vulnerability and weakness. They're likely to be accusing you of what they're doing or feeling. My mom used to always tell me, stop going to court on me, because I stayed defending myself. In this relationship, I was constantly defending myself. I don't know. I couldn't get shit right. No matter what I said, it wasn't right. It wasn't this. If I was this, then now I'm too bossy. And if I wasn't this, then I wasn't that. Like, no matter what I did, it was wrong. It was just, I don't know, had me second guessing myself 10 million times in a day. Well, did I say that when did I mean that when I said, I don't remember saying that. Maybe I did say that. And so you've got projection and manipulation that just like, hell, you go crazy. You're literally going nuts trying to jump out of this web that they have you in. The other thing that they list on here is emotionally cold. It's not a huge surprise, but narcs are continually shallow with their emotions, meaning they don't do well with emotions. To be an emotionally cold partner often means not being comforted, sometimes during the most difficult days in our lives. The emotionally cold or distant trait rears its head during arguments when one person is experiencing and expressing significant emotion and the narc person just checks out and doesn't respond or is cold. And that letter was cold. I mean, I just don't, I don't know. I don't know. I can recall things in the relationship of being hot and cold. I could walk out the room 1 minute and he was one way. I come back in, it was something else. And then I'm asking, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Well, just a minute ago we were like laughing and talking. What's wrong? It's just, I don't know. I don't know. I can definitely think back to a million times of when I experienced just the coldness and the jumping through hoops to try to get him to be more warm and to be more loving and to be more compassionate. And me feeling like there was something wrong with me because it was something that he was lacking. Gaslighting, Jesus. Now this is one that is, it's been around since forever. Right, came across like in the 30s. There was a movie called Gaslight where the husband, in an attempt to drive his wife crazy, keeps turning down the gas-powered lights in the house. When the wife asks why he's dimming the lights, he denies it and says they're not in a dimmer. And over time, she finds herself going crazy because it's like she knows that the damn lights is dim, and he's like, no, they're not. So, same thing as I said in this letter. It is, oh my God, it is... Oh, it is painful. because you find yourself, you think you're going nuts. You know, I was telling the lady in the interview today, I used to have a notepad on my phone where I would write down things that I said to him, like in the date. I have him dated and everything, super organized. And I started to do that because he would gaslight the shit out of me. I didn't say that. You didn't say that. You didn't tell me to do that. And I'm like, dude, I know I asked you to pick up blah, blah, blah. Or, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't say that. So I started to write things down. And then he got to a point where he was being a smart ass. And he would say, well, you know you have that brain injury. So you know you be forgetting shit. No shit, I have a brain injury. You gave it to me. I had subdural hemorrhaging on my brain because you kicked me in it. But he would find a way to turn it around and make it seem like it was something, again, that was my fault as to why I couldn't remember things or account for things. And then, this is perfect. It says, gaslighting qualifies as a form of emotional abuse that involves denying a person's experience and making statements such as, that never happened, or you're too sensitive. The gaslighter uses techniques such as withholding or stonewalling, contradicting or diversion. When you bring up something that concerns you and your partner, it turns into something you said years before, or deflects it and describes it as a conspiracy. They also minimize your feelings and denies events that definitely occurred. The damage of gaslighting is that it's confusing, it's isolating, and it often results in you questioning your own reality. You may find yourself constantly apologizing and no longer as relaxed and joyful as you once were. This needs to be up on a billboard with abuse and this equals. Like, this I think was the most painful part of the emotional abuse that I endured with him. It was the gaslighting. And again, I didn't know shit about gaslighting. Didn't know what a gaslight was. Hadn't seen the movie. I didn't find out any of these things until I was out. And then, as I said before, you start connecting the dots, and you're like, damn, how could I have missed that? But, oh man, I mean, just to even read this is like, they put it in the best words. I can't even, I try to explain it the best way I can when I do workshops. And like, this is, I don't know, as withholding and stonewalling and contradicting and diversion. Oh man, that was my life. That was my relationship in a nutshell. When, I was trying to say something, it would then turn into a diversion, or totally contradicting anything that I said. And don't let me do something in front of people, then I'd pay for it later on when nobody was around, because he would just gaslight the shit out of me or just be emotionally cold. Number 6 is never take responsibility. They are master deflectors and try to avoid the blame with lying, cheating, and everything in between. They will make up complex excuses and rationalize anything. That's this letter. That's the letter. That's what? Ain't no responsibility taken in this letter. None. And when it appears that you are taking some responsibility, it's like you were the victim, so to speak, because you were just so worn out with my addiction and my addiction and my alcoholism. Just so worn out and so checked out. Like, I can't even, when someone never takes responsibility for anything, words, actions, feelings, it's challenging, if not impossible, to always maintain a relationship. Even preschool age children are asked to take responsibility for a broken crayon or toys left out. It's not too much to ask a person to take ownership, since they are unable to distinguish the boundary between responsibility and blame. Narcs attempt to avoid both. So, just as in this letter, he cannot distinguish the boundary between responsibility and blame. It's almost like you're blaming me, quote unquote, blaming me for what if I really was an addict or, suffer from alcoholism. Now you're blaming me for being what I am, right? You're blaming me for the disease that I've got. I can't even, this is just perfect. And I just happened to find this before I did this video. So this is perfect. Controlling. The term control freak gets thrown around a lot, but it's key with a narcissistic trait. What makes the situation even more frustrating is that often the narc is controlling you while remaining completely disinterested in the other aspects of your life. Like many other traits, the other person in a relationship can mistake control for affection. Control is often a part of abuse dynamic in relationships. And the control culminates to the point where a person feels like they cannot move without asking for permission. And the narc uses the control to isolate the person. So see, for me, though, this was different, right? So when I think of controlling, I'm bossy. Now, I can admit that. I'm very bossy, right? So if I'm looking up as bossy and controlling, so as adjectives, the difference between bossy and controlling is that bossy is tending to give orders to others, especially when unwarranted, right? Fold the laundry this way. Please do not leave the kitchen this way. I need this to be looking like this, right? Domineering or bossy can be ornamented with bosses. Studied, while controlling is having control over a person or a thing. So this person, like the 12 signs of a controlling personality, is blaming you. Constant criticism, isolation, keeping score. We had so many damn tit for tat retaliations. It was horrible. Creating drama, intimidation, moodiness, ignoring boundaries. So when I used to get accused for being bossy or controlling, nah. And then you had me thinking that I was. Bossy and controlling are two totally different things. So it's like, you take all of these signs, right, of a controlling personality and you put them in a narcissistic person, then it begins to really make sense, right? So, but for me, it wasn't like he was controlling of where I was going or what I was doing, but you were controlling my mind. He was blaming me. It was constant criticism. It was keeping score all the time. It's like we were never on the same damn team. It was always a competition. Anybody could give me a compliment in front of him about how I have, oh, you graduated with this. Okay. Well, I graduated with honors. It would always be something to minimize me and put you up here. And my aunt pointed that out years ago. She's like, yeah, he always does that. Like every time somebody in the conversation is talking about you, or how this you are, or how cute this is, or how just wonderful Marika is, he finds a way to, if he can't make it about him, he would take it and take the attention that someone was giving me away. And so that's the best way for me to do the controlling. But one thing to remember is that at the end of a relationship, since abuse is about power and control, it's at the end of a relationship that it gets the most dangerous because they're losing control, right? They're losing the control of being able to blame you, keeping you isolated, and all the other things that they're doing to control you. They're losing that. If you leave, they lose that control. And that's when things can become extremely dangerous, so to speak. Grandiose. So grandiosity is a pattern in which a person tends to exaggerate accomplishments, talents, connections, and experiences. They do not have to be real experiences. Grandiose people tend to maintain over-the-top fantasy worlds. We know somebody who just left office that was that kind of person. But in the case of a famous narcissist like Stalin and Hitler, the purveyor may already be in a position of power, but They may hold a leadership role, be famous, or have accumulated wealth. The grandiosity is a permanent fixture, and they will repeatedly boast about their accomplishments and their possessions and their experiences. It says grandiosity is seductive and can turn your partner into something larger than life. So when things are going well, it can feel perfect. And the number 9 here is infidelity. Sadly, the culmination of the previous 8 signs will inevitably lead to a final or habitual act of betrayal. They will cheat. Their need for admiration and novelty is so vast that they are wired to be unfaithful. Affairs are typically characterized by excitement, flattery, and superficial grandiosity. They may keep a steady relationship with you and cultivate other needs outside the relationship. I can't tell you how many times this Negro done cheated, right? I'm sure times that I didn't know about, and I'm sure I could at least say there was maybe at least one that I did know about. 2 that I knew about. And the thing about this, right, infidelity, and why these things, why that's a trait, is because narcs are big on, what's the word I'm looking for? Supply. So they use you and drain you until they can't anymore. And then when that supply runs out, they got to run and find another supply. That's a huge narcissistic trait. So this makes sense, right? That they would be, there would be infidelity, because once they have you on this, because that's how it happens, right? They put you on this pedestal. There's the sign, right? They put you on the pedestal, and then you're knocked off the pedestal, and then comes the degrading phase, right? Where they've either beat you or cheated on you or things like that. So it makes sense that once their new thing, their new exciting relationship, marriage, whatever with you is not as wonderful anymore, or once you start to see them for who they are, yeah, they start to move along. Even with you still in a relationship, they start to move along and find a new supply. So, in summary, I feel like this is just, I don't know, like I said, it had been sitting on my heart to read this bullshit letter. Post it, share it, put it out there, right? To, I don't know, like, I'm not ashamed that you said I was an addict or a alcoholic or any of those things, because it's not true, so I don't care. But I think it's just really interesting, especially for somebody like me that's into psychology, just to read this kind of shit and to know who you are, because I know who he is. He may not know who he is, but I know who he is. And just to kind of like be able to dissect this shit and pull it apart and read it and be like, wow, this is a classic narc, right? This is a classic abuser. It's just interesting to me. So I had to share it. I think for me, it's very hard to be able to always put it into words. And this letter did that for me. And so, I don't know. I think if I could say anything of, I guess, what this letter did is like, thank you. If I could say to him, thanks. Thanks for, number one, proving who you are. Not that I didn't know already, but thanks for proving it. And thank you for just the warning of, Negro, you have not changed. You're the same insecure, narcissistic, just pathetic person. And I continue to pray for him. I continue to. I know it sounds weird, but I pray that he finds what it is that he needs in his relationship with God to be better, to repent, because this letter ain't it. So I am still grateful for it, and I will just continue to pray for him. Pray that he finds Jesus, because he needs it. They all need it, right? Whether you have a partner or an ex-partner that you've had to live through, to my women and to my men that have had a partner like this, it's a long recovery period of dissecting and pulling apart pieces and connecting those dots. But I promise you, once you get to a place of peace and knowing, and a sense of just knowing that you couldn't have changed this person, and even more so sometimes the situations, because people are just who they are. I think that's where the healing begins. We just have to see the parts and the pieces that we all play, right? And you start to heal your parts and pieces. I can't be responsible for his shit. You pray for them. You pray that they get to a better place of peace. And that's it. That's all you can do. So, if anything, what we say to our past, what we say to our former, our exes, is thank you. Because I would not be who I am today if I hadn't have lived through this shit. If I hadn't have been through everything that I've been through, I wouldn't have my life. I wouldn't have the people and the connections that have been made because of a painful experience that I've been through with a person that apparently God put in my life to teach me. So for that, even when it's been shitty and I've almost lost my life, I'm still grateful to God for that. I'm grateful for the strength that I possess now, because I didn't have this kind of strength, or let me take it back. I didn't realize that I had this in me. It was hidden. And sometimes God has to put us through things to pull it out. You got to be put to the test to really get to what it is that God's trying to get out of you. And I would have never got it. I really can't think of anything in my life that, could have got me to where I am today, with the strength and the empowerment and just the confidence that I have in myself. So for that, thank you.